Hey soccer fans, welcome back to the Feed the Fire podcast. I'm your host Nick, and with the Chicago Fire being off this upcoming weekend, October 11th, we're going to take a look at the MLS playoff picture as a whole right now. Of course, we know there's a couple games to go still in the season. We're going to take a little dip into some of the national team coverage and then just go over some MLS headlines as of late, especially looking at the latest 22 under 22 rankings. First of all, if you want to interact with the show, please email me, glasshousesoccer@gmail.com, or find me on social media at glasshousesoccer. Also, I want to thank our sponsor, Skira Icelandic Spring Water, who has supported this show from episode 1. Get out to your local 7-Eleven, get a bottle of Skira Icelandic Spring Water, get 3 bottles of Icelandic Spring Water, get 5 bottles of the Skira. Get enough as you need to stay hydrated, to keep those voice and vocal cords ready to yell for the Chicago Fire this postseason. Now let's get into our MLS talk. Like I said, the Chicago Fire don't have their next match until October 18th, so let's take a look at the standings and see where things line up. In the Eastern Conference, all the teams that are going to make the playoffs have made the playoffs. The teams are set. We're just waiting to see how those last couple of games shake out as to how the seeding is going to look. Currently, Philadelphia has clinched the Supporter Shield and the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, with Cincinnati, Miami, and Charlotte currently in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. New York City, Nashville, and Orlando are in the 5, 6, and 7 spots, and Chicago and Columbus round out the playoffs in 8th and 9th respectively, and they're in that play-in game. There is hope that Chicago, with a victory over New England next weekend, will be able to jump Orlando and Nashville depending on their results. If Orlando does no better than a draw and Nashville loses, if the Fire win, they can jump up into that 6th spot. Now that would be great to see them in another 3-game series against Miami, assuming Miami stays in the 3 spot, that 3-6 matchup. But anyway, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. I really don't think there's anyone that I don't want to see in the playoffs other than Philly. Philly's the one team that scares me this season as a Fire fan. Otherwise, I think Chicago is well suited to handle their business against any of these other teams in the East. And if you read the latest power rankings on MLSsoccer.com, J. Sam Jones says that the Chicago Fire, even though he's got them ranked 13th in the power rankings, are a threat to any team in the playoffs. So something to look forward to. Looking out west, right now you have San Diego and Vancouver, 1 and 2, both on 60 points. San Diego has the tiebreaker with one more win, though if it comes down to goal differential, the second tiebreaker in MLS, Vancouver far and away has that. They've got a 28 goal differential at this point to San Diego's 19. LAFC and Minnesota are the 3rd and 4th spot in the West currently. And then we have Seattle, Austin, and Portland rounding out 5, 6, and 7, the automatic qualifiers, while Dallas and Salt Lake are currently 8th and 9th and will be playing in the play-in game. Now, Colorado is on 40 points, even with Salt Lake. Salt Lake owns the tiebreakers, so they're in the 9th spot as it sits now, but Salt Lake has 2 more games to play, Colorado 1 more game to play. So there's still a lot of shakeup that can happen in the Western Conference. We only know 7 teams that are locked. From Dallas, Salt Lake, Colorado, and San Jose, those 4 teams are still mathematically eligible for the playoffs. Houston, St. Louis, Kansas City, and the Galaxy, unfortunately, are not. And by the way, Galaxy without a win on the road the entire season. That's kind of stunning. Now, Atlanta's only had 1 road win throughout the season, but everyone else has at least 2 road wins on the season than those 2 teams, except for those 2 teams. So that's how the playoff picture looks right now. Again, there's still a couple games left to go. We've got decision day on the 18th, so we're going to see some movement towards the bottom half of the playoff picture here. Keep your eyes on all that action. Speaking of the schedule, there is some international games going on, part of the reason why Chicago is off this weekend. October 10th, that is Friday, we have Canada hosting Australia at Stade Saputo at 6:30, and the U.S. hosting Ecuador at Q2 Stadium, and that's at 7:30. It's on Amazon Prime, so I might actually get to watch that one. On Saturday the 11th, there is a slate of MLS games, including an Austin LAFC game on Sunday. But from the international perspective, Mexico takes on Colombia at AT&T Stadium Saturday at 8 p.m. So put those on your calendar. As we roll into the next week, Tuesday the 14th, Colombia hosts Canada at Sports Illustrated Stadium. The U.S. hosts Australia at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, and Mexico hosts Ecuador at Estadio Akron. That's a great name, Estadio Akron. And then the MLS resumes with their Decision Day schedule on Saturday the 18th. And because it's Decision Day, and because there still are a lot of teams jockeying position, and just to keep things in all fairness, the entire Eastern Conference will kick off at 5 o'clock Central, and the entire Western Conference will kick off at 8 o'clock Central. That way the teams aren't watching scoreboard watching and making decisions based on that. So the Fire will travel to New England and kick off at 5 p.m. at Gillette Stadium on October 18th. But getting back to the international picture for a little bit, Pochettino revealed his roster for these upcoming international friendlies. We're going to see a lot of familiar MLS names on here, as well as some of the big U.S. international players as well. So starting in the back, there are 4 goalkeepers that were called into the camp. Chris Brady gets his first senior camp call-up as far as I remember. I know he's had some time with some of the youth national teams, or perhaps he was training with the national team, but actually gets called into camp now. If he does get into a game, it will be his first U.S. international appearance. There is some speculation that if he's not going to be part of their future, he may go to Scotland. He is eligible through Ancestry to play for Scotland, but at this point in time, it seems like all eyes are on him wearing the red, white, and blue. Matt Freese also gets called in, the New York City goalkeeper, Patrick Schulte from Columbus, and Matt Turner of the New England Revolution. So the 4 goalkeepers, all MLS players. Matt Turner, though, with some of that European experience recently, we'll see what kind of form he's in, and we'll see what kind of form he's in against the Fire if he's back by then. So this is your goalkeepers pool. What I like about it is you have a vet in Matt Turner. You have Matt Freese and Patrick Schulte, who have some recent experience with the national team, and you have Chris Brady as the newcomer. And remember, Brady is still only 21 years old, so he has many years ahead of him. Hopefully many good USMNT and Chicago Fire years, if not your big European years ahead of him. So I like the makeup of it here, and we know Brady has been playing very well in MLS. He has learned to play with the ball at his feet under Greg Berhalter's system. So it's going to be great to see the competition of him going head-to-head with Freese and Schulte and Turner, his fellow MLS goalkeepers. I think he's got a shot. I don't know if Pochettino already has him, as the penciled-in number 4 guy, just because he is the youngest and doesn't have any, and maybe he just wants him on a developmental path right now. But you got to look at, if you're just looking at pure talent and performance, Brady's got as good of a shot as any of the other 3 to start for the U.S. when these games occur. Looking at the defenders, we have Max Arfston from Columbus, Cameron Carter-Vickers from Celtic, Alex Freeman, Orlando City, Mark McKenzie, Toulouse, Tim Ream, Charlotte, Chris Richards, Crystal Palace, Anthony Robinson, Fulham, and Miles Robinson, no relation, Cincinnati. So a good mix of European-based and MLS-based defenders here. Nice to see Max Arfston and Alex Freeman back in the mix. We saw Freeman have a great year in MLS and get some other appearances with the USMNT earlier on in the year. Similarly with Max Arfston, great to see that there's still the desire for these MLS wingbacks for Pochettino. I am a little surprised to see Tim Ream in this. I don't know if Tim Ream can still cut it at the World Cup level. I don't even want to say at the international level, because he could probably still play at a lot of clubs around the world. He was with Fulham up until last year. He's had some decent performances even with the U.S. this year, but it's an interesting call-up because he's 37 years old, I want to say, and will he be playing in the World Cup with the U.S.? Now, maybe Pochettino really does say this is purely a talent exercise here, and Ream is still the most talented until he's not, or one of the most talented defenders in the American pool until he's not. I just don't want the until he's not to be the World Cup. So I hope Pochettino is bringing him in more for his leadership and to kind of work up these young guys like Max Arfson, like Alex Freeman, even Cameron Carter-Vickers, who only has 19 call-ups for the United States, 19 caps. Mark McKenzie, only 22 caps. Anthony Robinson, 33, starting to get up there. Miles Robinson, 35. I'm sorry, Anthony Robinson has 50 call-ups. Chris Richards has 33, and Miles Robinson 35. So I'm hoping this is really to kind of set the defensive tone and set a defensive culture for this group who's going to be taking the U.S. into the World Cup. And again, I think this is the group that has to be coming together, use this time to gel. Then when it is the second half of the qualifiers, even though the U.S. automatically qualifies as a host, that's when you really turn it on and really come together as a team. So it wouldn't surprise me to see a Chris Richards, Miles Robinson, Anthony Robinson, and a Mark, or we'll say Max Arfson, as your starting four if he wants to play with the wingbacks. But also with McKenzie and Ream, you potentially have a three center back system there as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Pochettino approaches this group of defenders. Moving up to the midfield, Brendan Aronson of Leeds, Diego Luna of Salt Lake, Weston McKennie, Juventus, hopefully future Chicago Fire, right? That's what we're trying to make into reality on social media. Aiden Morris, Middlesbrough, Christian Roldan, Seattle, James Sands, FC St. Pauli over in Germany, Tanner Tessman, Lyon, and Malik Tillman, Bayer Leverkusen. So a very interesting midfield group here. We have Brendan Aronson and Weston McKennie, who are the most experienced as far as call-ups go. Aronson has 53 call-ups and 9 goals. McKennie has 60 call-ups and 11 goals for the U.S. So I would assume you're going to see McKennie be in the starting midfield. And if you're going to go play with a 4-3-3, I would assume you're going to see McKennie and Aiden Morris and some sort of combination of Malik Tillman and Diego Luna. I don't know if Pochettino likes to keep, the European players together versus the American players, MLS-based players together. So we'll see how he likes to mix it up. Interesting to see Christian Roldan again. I think this is one of those leadership decisions. Roldan has kind of been on the outskirts of the U.S. team, and you saw it from World Cup experience last World Cup that he was kind of brought in to be more of a leader than an on-the-field impact player, despite still having the legs in him. And maybe he is that veteran guy now in this midfield group, him and hopefully Weston McKennie, who can kind of whip this midfield group into World Cup shape. As far as the forwards go on the club, you've got Patrick Agyemang, Derby County, Florin Balogun, Monaco, Christian Pulisic, Milan, Tim Weah, Marseille, Haji Wright, Coventry City, and Alex Sendejas, Club America. So we're probably looking at de facto starters here, Pulisic, Balogun, and Weah, with Haji Wright and Agyemang providing that competition for Balogun, or we'll see who's in stronger form as the run up to the World Cup progresses. I love seeing Alex Sendejas here. You saw how well he played in the last round of USMNT games. He's the one that's fighting. He's the one that is setting up goals. He is playing to the 90th minute. He is doing great for Club America down in Liga MX. You saw how much playing in the All-Star game meant to him here at home in the United States. So it's great to see him get inclusion and get some serious looks from the coaching staff here. But again, how far is the U.S. going to go? Well, that depends on how well Balogun, Pulisic, and Weah are going to be playing on the offensive side of things. So this is a U.S. team that needs to score goals. That's been trouble with them in the past. However, they've got the talent to do it, at least in this lineup here, and we need to see them find the back of the net, especially in these friendlies. Let's get that good momentum going even from now. All right, jumping back to MLS, but also kind of staying with the international theme, there are a number of players from Major League Soccer who have been called up to their national teams. Remember, the World Cup has expanded this year. There are 48 teams that will make the tournament. Additionally, there's the Under-20 FIFA World Cup coming up. I can't even remember when that starts. If it hasn't already, it has already started. Yes, the U.S. has had a really good group stage, if I remember correctly, beating France and stomping New Caledonia, and looks poised to make a good run. But as far as the Chicago Fire players who got called up, We know Chris Brady, goalkeeper for the U.S. Chris Cupps also makes the U17 youth national team, and Joel Waterman is called up as a defender for Canada. So great to see that the Chicago Fire continue to have representation at the international level. It tells you they're doing something right. And it's not just at the international level. It's at the youth U.S. level, it's at the U.S. senior level, and it's at international level between Canada and others. And it wouldn't surprise me. I don't know how well Portugal's team and how deep they are, but it wouldn't have surprised me if Andre Franco was going to get a look. We know Omari Glasgow is getting a lot of work with Guyana. I just don't think they have any matches coming up. And so there's a lot of international talent that the Fire are also scouting as well. I know there are a lot of fans here in the U.S. who want to see Hugo Kuipers get his Belgium call-up finally. We'll see what their schedule looks like, and we'll see if someone who's in a golden boot race in Major League Soccer has done enough to make the Belgian national team there. Last couple headlines here before we wrap things up. Inter Miami defender Jordi Alba is set to retire after the 2025 season. He has announced his retirement. He has featured in over 700 professional club matches from Gimnàstic de Tarragona, Valencia, Barcelona, and Inter Miami. He joined in July of 2023. But what's really interesting about this news is not that he's retiring, but that he announced his retirement just a couple months after he signed his contract extension through 2027, by the way. So not just for next year, but for 2 more years. And it also comes 2 weeks after Sergio Busquets announced his retirement. Alba was quoted on social media as saying, "The time has come to close a truly meaningful chapter in my life. I've decided to bring my professional football career to an end at the conclusion of the season. I do so with complete conviction, with peace, and with happiness, because I feel I've walked this path with every ounce of passion I had. And now it's the right moment to open a new chapter and close the previous one with the best possible feeling." So, fantastic career for Jordi Alba. Obviously, anyone who's followed the international game knows that, and anyone who's seen him play with Inter Miami knows just how amazing of a player he has been in his career. And Miami, I guess, is looking to get a final trophy with him and Busquets and Messi and Suarez before those two depart. What the speculation here is, though, is that it's actually reflective of the turmoil at Inter Miami FC. Now, I don't know if this is actually happening or if this is just what people are reading into it because of Messi's father's influence on the club, how Mascherano comes in with no coaching experience, but, you know, he played with Messi and won a World Cup with him in Argentina, so clearly he can coach Inter Miami. All these sort of things, all these sort of speculation, rumors that, you know what, don't sound so far-fetched, is that part of why now you have these two guys who came here to play with their friends, to live in Miami, to continue to play and get paid for it, why they've suddenly announced their retirement within a couple weeks of each other. And, you know, for what it's worth, Chicago fans, you know, Chicago smacks you down 5-3. You got to start rethinking your life choices here, right? No, I in no way mean that as a derogatory comment towards anyone, especially the Chicago Fire. We know how good that they can play, and they showed it in that Miami game. So, just something to think about and a club to keep an eye on, especially as they move towards the offseason. You know, what are they going to do with their coaching staff? What players are they going to sign? What news is going to come out of the Herons down in Miami? Last thing I want to talk about, MLS has released its 22 under-22 rankings for this season. There are, to sum up, 14 homegrown players, 7 U22 initiative players. The club with the most representation is the Union with 3. The youngest player on this list, Peyton Miller, 17 years old from the New England Revolution, and the average age is just about 20.09 to be precise. So how does the list stack up? I'll give you a quick spoiler. There's only one Chicago Fire player that made the list, and there's only one goalkeeper that made the list, and that's the same person. That is Chris Brady of the Chicago Fire, 21 years old, coming in at 11 on this list. So Chris Brady considered the 11th best player under 22 years old in Major League Soccer. Now, I think last season he was right around that like 9 to 12 range as well. So you kind of see how, even though he's been that good for that long and has gotten even better this season, I don't think goalkeepers are getting much love on this list. But it's hard to say how can we put him ahead of the top 10. So maybe that's how they thought about it. They're like, we need the top 10, and then Brady's next. So if you do kind of think about it that way, Brady probably is a top 10 talent, top 10 under 22 talent in this league, but they just didn't fit in the way the staff put together their votes, I suppose. Again, I don't know what the process is. I don't know how. Oh, here it is. It says it right here in the article. Read, Nick. There were 64 ballots submitted. 23 of 30 MLS clubs participated, including head coaches, chief soccer officers, technical directors, and lead scouts. And players received 103 votes. There were 103 players that received votes, and they had to whittle the list down to these 22. So here are your top 10. Starting at number 1, we're not going to count down. I don't want to leave you in suspense. Number 1, a name we should all be familiar with, Obed Vargas of the Seattle Sounders, 20-year-old midfielder. Number 2, another name we're becoming more familiar with, Alex Freeman, Orlando City, 21-year-old defender. Number 3, Idan Toklamadi, Charlotte forward, 21 years old. Owen Wolf, Austin FC, is the 4th place, midfielder at 20. David Martinez, LAFC forward, 19 years old. He's in the 5 spot. Second half of your top 10. Number 6, Quinn Sullivan, 21-year-old midfielder from the Union. Number 7, Peyton Miller, defender, 17 years old from the Revs. Nathan Ordaz is the 8th highest rated under 22 player forward from LAFC at 21 years old. Luca Bambino, San Diego's defender, 19-year-old. He's the 9th spot. And number 10, Xavier Gozo of Real Salt Lake, 18-year-old forward. So of these top 10, we see 4 forwards, 3 midfielders, and 3 defenders. So they were very evenly spread amongst the positional players here. And then, of course, Chris Brady, the one and only keeper on the list, coming in at 11. I'm just going to quickly run through the rest of the names, going from 12 down to 22, starting with the number 12, Noah Allen. Shout out to my fellow Greek. Shout out to the Allen family. Thank you, Candy, for that great email after my appearance on the Inter Miami Battered Herons podcast. Great to connect with you. My boys love watching another Greek American player out there on MLS, so they're loving watching Noah Allen play right now. Getting back to our list, number 13, Olwethu Makana, Philly. 14, Kevin Kelsey, Portland Timbers. 15, Manodua, San Diego. 16, Julian Fernandez, New York City. 17, Ole Feingold, New England Revolution. 18, Frankie Westfield, Philadelphia. 19, Nicholas Romero, Minnesota. 20, Darren Yappy, Colorado. 21, Brooklyn Reigns, Houston. And 22, Taha Habrone, I definitely mispronounced that name, apologies, of the Columbus Crew. So just some other little fun facts here. Obed Vargas, the way they did the point total here, ended up with 1,231 points. Alex Freeman, 1,220 points. So very close between those top 2. Let's go back to our guy, Chris Brady, who ended up with 532 points. So it drops off pretty drastically when you get past the first 2 players. Number 3 and number 4 are around 1,000 points. Number 5 and number 6 in the 900s, and then it drops off down to the 600s for number 7. So not so much consensus outside the top 5, it would seem. And when you get down to 15, 16, 17, you're in the 200 to 300 range. So as far as points for the voting, so not a lot of consensus when you get outside that top 5. If you want to find out who the other players were to round out the 30, you can find the article online. They do give you the point totals through 30. I'm just going to take a quick moment again to mention number 27, San Jose midfielder Nikos Tsakiris, another Greek American, another guy my boys are keeping an eye on. So great to see that full list. Great to see the young talent that's being recognized here in MLS. All right, that's everything I wanted to cover for the day. Soccer fans and Fire fans, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the international matches. Enjoy the MLS matches that are going on this weekend. Looking forward to doing a couple episodes next week previewing that New England matchup for the Chicago Fire. But until then, let's go USA. Let's go Fire.